everybody, and welcome to another spoiler review here from the Outlaw Nation. I am the Outlaw, John Roca, here talking about The Black Phone, this new film that came out in theaters over the weekend from director Scott Derrickson. How ironic, just a few weeks after Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, here comes Scott Derrickson, who directed the original Doctor Strange. Marvel and him kind of broke up over creative differences. Make that what you will. And we got what I think was an inferior sequel to the original Doctor Strange. So I like him as a director for sure. I certainly enjoyed The Exorcism of Emily Rose and Sinister. So I was very interested to see what we're going to get here with The Black Phone. I saw it at CinemaCon and went and saw it again at another screening recently here in San Diego, and I'm ready to talk about it. Before I do, I want to remind you all to please subscribe to the channel down below. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell button so you see when we're dropping all the content we do, trying to get to that 25,000 subscribers mark, man. Help me get there as soon as possible. Maybe by the end of July, the middle of July, help me to get to 25,000 subscribers for sure. And also, if you want to follow me on Twitch, the Outlaw Nation, all one word on Twitch. And if you want to support all we got going on here on the Outlaw Nation, it's the Patreon, patreon.com/John Roca. All right, let's jump into this spoiler review for The Black Phone. The Black Phone is based on a short story by Joe Hill, who is Stephen King's son, for those of you who may not know that. But the screenplay comes to us from Scott Derrickson and C. Robert Cargill. You know, they worked together on Sinister. They also worked together on Doctor Strange. And speaking of Sinister, Ethan Hawke is along for the ride here. So those three coming together, reuniting in another horror film here. He plays the Grabber, who is a child murderer here in the 1970s in Denver. It also stars Mason Thames as Finney, Madeline McGraw as Gwen. Jeremy Davis plays their father, Terrence, and E. Roger Mitchell and Troy Rudisell play the two detectives who are trying to hunt down the Grabber and find out what is going on in this town in Denver. So this is an interesting film on so many levels because, you know, the timing of it is fascinating. We're dealing with children in scary situations at school, with recently the Uvalde shooting, but also hearing about kids being abducted all the time, kids being abused all the time. We're seeing more and more violence erupting in our everyday lives. You know, we're strolling on the internet, on social media, strolling on Yahoo, strolling on CNN, strolling on wherever you go. You see all kinds of stories about children being abducted or hurt or harmed. And of course, back in the 1970s, and trust me, I remember the 1970s, I remember what it's like to spend an incredible amount of time with your parents not around. That you go out for 3 or 4 hours, go riding on your bike, go play pickup football, go out in the creek with a bunch of other people, go swimming in that lake with a bunch of your friends, go all kinds of stuff you would just go and do back in the 1970s. And I think Scott Derrickson does an excellent job of capturing that time, capturing that vibe for sure, as he's telling this story of a child murderer who grabs Finney, and Finney is stuck in this soundproof room, and Finney has to find a way out. And Gwen, who has her psychic abilities, is channeling into the things that she's got available to her to try to find Finney, while Finney is using his psychic abilities when a phone that is down there, and that's the titular object in this movie, the black phone. There's a black phone that is down that is clearly disconnected, but Finney somehow is able to receive calls from the people that the Grabber murdered and held in that room in times past. So it's a fascinatingly interesting film that is not as horror or gory based as you might believe from the trailers. It's a much more psychological horror film, and I really appreciated that and enjoyed that. And I thought the script was fantastic here from Derrickson and Cargill. I think they did a great job of laying the groundwork of what this world was like in the 1970s, right? It's a little more brown or dirtier, grungier, for lack of a better term. You've got all these different looks, and then you've got a harder edge to this film right off the bat. Before the Grabber even shows up, we hear about the Grabber, but we also see some pretty violent fist fights between the kids, between bullies. You know, Finney gets cornered in the bathroom. We also see Finney get attacked, and his sister uses a rock to hit the head of one of these people. We see an actual fight between a bigger dude and a skinnier, younger guy who's kind of the badass of the school, and he kicks the crap out of that guy. And so we're seeing a lot of violence and brutality here right off the bat, showing you that this is and we rarely see any adults. So this is a world where the kids have to kind of navigate and negotiate and figure things out in their world, because the adults seem to be absent or seem to be caught up in their own things. And that's kind of how it felt back in the 70s and 80s. So I think Scott Derrickson does a great job of kind of setting you in this world and having you live in this world for a little bit before the Grabber grabs Finney and takes him down to that soundproof basement. And, you know, the Grabber, the mask for the Grabber is fantastic. Absolutely excellent. I think Ethan Hawke brings it to life so well. People say, oh, I saw my colleague Snyder say the mask does a lot of the work. That's not true. When you're acting, and Jeff's never done that, when you're actually acting with mask work, and you do get trained in mask work when you're an actor, it's a big deal to be able to convey emotion through a mask that doesn't change its face. Look, as a guy who wore the mask as the outlaw, I would guarantee you some of you can go see some of those matches where I wore the mask and you could tell the emotions I was going through verbally, but I somehow transposed on that mask. And that's what good mask work does. I'm no Ethan Hawke, but he is incredible here with his performance. It is chilling. It is unsettling. He uses this kind of awkward, high-pitched voice when he's kind of out there in the world with his black balloons, playing the magician, and everything like that. But when he gets back into that basement and when he goes deeper into that uglier side of himself, you hear that deeper, almost animalistic, demonic voice come and take him over. And some of the images of him in that house are really unsettling. This is an Ethan Hawke villain performance I have never seen from him. And that includes Moon Knight or anything else you can throw out into the mix here. He does an excellent job. But it's the two kids, right? It's the two kids who do the heavy lifting in this film. They're the kids of an alcoholic father whose mother had psychic abilities. Their mother took her own life, and their father gets incredibly mad at them and beats them whenever they use their psychic abilities. So already, in a sense, they're living with a version of the Grabber with their father. They're stuck in a house. They can't get out of this situation. They have nowhere to go. And their father, they have to walk on eggshells in a minefield around their father for fear that he might beat them. And Jeremy Davies does an incredible job with this role of Terrence. We've seen him play the awkward, unsettled guy, but we haven't quite seen him play the awkward, unsettled guy who can go towards very brutal violence. It might be something that is shocking to you all in the movie, seeing a father spank his children, female and male children, in such a vicious way. And spankings were just the standard thing in the 1970s. I remember trading war stories of spankings when I was a kid growing up and a teenager as well. You just remember that kind of stuff in the 80s, teenager in the 80s. You remember that kind of stuff. And that was just how things were done. Nowadays, of course, it's frowned upon. So when you see it in the movie, it's almost another level of brutality that unsettles you because you become so accustomed with that not being the norm anymore in our society. And I think they do a great job of sparsing those spankings out. I think there's only one or two in the movie, and they do an effective job of conveying the pain and the sadness that these children are going through and the horror they're going through themselves at the hands of their own father. So when Finney is in that soundproof room, he is, in a way, and I would say this very delicately, almost been trained to handle this horrible situation because of the situation he is in with his dad. He's able to kind of try to cajole or negotiate or be defiant at certain times, but also uses ingenuity and his troubleshooting techniques to be able to get himself out of that situation. And I think Mason Thames really shines here as he vacillates between all the different emotions that are going on, both when the Grabber is in the room and when the Grabber is outside of the room, and he is trying to figure out how the hell to get out of there. We see a lot of organic initiative across his face as he's trying to do the things that he's doing. But also, let's add to what I mentioned earlier here, the voices that are on the phone. Mason playing off these voices that, of course, are done voiceover, and he's reacting to their suggestions, reacting to their recommendations about what to do in this situation, and also trying to figure out how he's able to communicate with these people and if this is even real or if he's going crazy. Remember, this is a young kid, so there's all kinds of feelings that are going on for him. And as he's experiencing these situations with these kids, he's trying to figure out what to do to get out there. All of this is coming together. And in a way, this whole situation is a coming of age. And if I can use that term kind of loosely in this to describe what's happening here, this is a coming of age. This is him finally letting go of the child aspect of things and climbing out, in essence, of his own sadness, his own pain, his own horror of his life, to reclaim himself, to reclaim his strength, to find a power in his world. Because remember, he's bullied by people at school. He's whipped by his dad. His sister gets the better of him in their exchanges. So, he is essentially a put upon, victimized kid, and he has to kind of find his own voice. And nobody wants to find their own voice stuck in a room at the subject to a serial killer's impulses. But he does an incredible job having you connect with him. And then Scott Derrickson does a great job directing and pacing this film out so that you're following him on his journey as he climbs out of this hellhole. And Madeline McGraw, I think Madeline McGraw is absolutely fantastic. You know, my friend Aaron Turner from Strong Style, he said she is like the best sister in horror movie, the number one sister in horror movies ever. And that might be debatable, but I think she does an excellent job here. You know, she's so self-composed, she's so confident, she so knows who she is, so that when she's in these situations, she is going to get her answers. She is going to fight to defend her brother in that fight with the bullies. She's going to use that rock. She's going to use her psychic abilities through the dream, trying to figure all that out. She's going to use that house and all that to try to get the clues that she needs. She's even going to tell Jesus, "Hey, what the f?" when he thinks that he is not listening to what she's trying, the information that she's trying to get from kind of calling in on all her psychic abilities. And Madeline does an excellent job. She is just one of these wonder children you watch in a film and you're just like, man, oh man, I can't wait to see what the future holds for an incredibly talented actress like this. And throughout the movie, she is smart with the dialogue, smart with her instincts, smart with her betrayal, and genuinely loves her brother. And that's another thing that really comes through in both of their performances. You can absolutely tell there's a genuine affection and love for these two as brother and sister. Yes, do they give each other a lot of shit throughout the movie in certain scenes? Yes, but in the end, they love each other. And certainly at the end, when Gwenny is running over to grab Finney and to hug Finney, there's such a genuine affection there between those two, because in a way, they've both kind of climbed out of their own holes, because Gwen has kind of been essential in helping to find him, working with the police and fighting through her dad's desire for her to quell these impulses to access the psychic ability stuff because of what happened to his wife and her mom. So all of that really comes together in a fantastic way in this film. Scott Derrickson's direction is just stellar here. I mean, this is maybe the best film he's directed this side of Doctor Strange for me. It's the most complete film. I was enraptured from moment one to the end of the movie, caught up in this story. The pacing of this is done really well. The occasional jump scares are used effectively here. But the sense of dread and the tension and the horror here throughout is just so well done. The direction he gives to the children, the direction he gives him and Ethan Hawke working together to create the grabber is just so perfect. And I really enjoyed this movie from top to bottom. And I thought there was a lot to take out of this film as lessons for our world and our lives, for sure. That it may seem like you can't get out of this situation. It may seem that you can't find your way out. But if you keep plugging away and you get some help from other people, because it always takes a village, you can find your way out of the deepest, darkest places that could threaten your life to find a stronger, more confident position to stand in your life. And I think that comes through here by the end of the movie. The score is done really well here, really kind of underscores a lot of the emotions that are happening in certain scenes, whether it's the tension and the chilling horror aspects of being in the dungeon, or the uplifting moments when Gwen has finally figured this thing out. Plus the way Scott shoots the sequences when Gwen's having the dream, the kind of dreamy aspects of them all. I think that he does a really great job with this. Plus the storyline with the two detectives, they're kind of involved in this, but not sure, and they're questioning things. But I think it's E. Roger Mitchell who kind of believes her against his better impulses, and has to bring his partner along a little bit to kind of believe her. And then slowly but surely they start to understand that she is probably dialed into something that's leading them to finding this grabber guy. And of course, that ending sequence with Finney kind of negotiating his way around the grabber, and then how that explodes, and how the grabber kills his own brother, played by the great James Ransone, who I enjoyed in It Chapter 2. He's playing Max, the brother of the grabber, and finding out that the whole time it's been happening right under Max's nose. That's some great comedic relief in the movie. And then, of course, it's pretty horrific what happens to Max when the grabber finally does the things that he does to kind of try to escape from one final situation here, not get caught by these cops. So overall, I give the film 4 cowboy hats out of 5. I really, really enjoyed this one. And I've seen some small section of horror critics getting super mad that we enjoyed this one, but I liked it. It didn't go into the gory slasher stuff that I really am not a big fan of when it comes to horror films. It actually explored more of the psychological aspects of this all, and it's symbolic. I love the symbolism here. This idea, again, let me reiterate this idea that you are taken from a place of comfort, even though that comfort is horrible, it's all you know, and shoved into a place that's even darker. How do you climb out of that darker place and change where you were at to for the better? Change your point of view and your perspective of where you were at so that you could make better, you can have a better life afterwards. And I think that's something that it comes through really powerfully by the end of the movie. And all the acting, the direction, the score, the cinematography, the pacing, and the editing, all of it worked really well here. And this is one that I highly recommend to you all to go see a second time, because I think you're going to get even more out of it when you go see it again for sure. All right, well, that's my spoiler review here for The Black Phone on the Outlaw Nation. Thanks so much for watching this. I appreciate it madly. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel down below and hit that bell button. Come and follow me on Twitch, The Outlaw Nation, and of course on the Patreon, patreon.com/John Rocha. And let me know what you thought of The Black Phone down in the comments section below. What worked for you? What didn't work for you? What gave you questions? What had you pondering certain things? Do you agree with the symbolism that I'm pointing out here in the movie? Or did you think there was other symbolism here in the movie that you got from it? Let me know all of that down in the comments section below. Hit a like on this video and share it on your social media as well. All right, y'all take care of yourselves. Be well, and I'll talk to you next time with another brand new spoiler review episode here on the Outlaw Nation.